Hello everybody, it's Larry and welcome to today's video. And you know it's going to be a special announcement if I'm in the video, because I'll only get in the videos if I've got something I think is really important and I want to make sure you hear it directly from me. So here we go. The ball and pattern tool is no more. It's gone, finito. It has, like a caterpillar, evolved into the butterfly. All right, we've got new features for it and it has a new resting place. The new tool can be found at cmsolver.com. That's CM as in centimorgans, solver.com, cmsolver.com. Now, it looks very much like the ball and pattern tool because it does have the features that the ball and pattern tool did, but it now has an additional feature. You wouldn't, be a major announcement if it was just a URL change. It could be. Some people would call that a major thing, but there's more to it. Now, to understand the power of this new feature, you need to understand the old features, okay? So we want to enter the 212 centimorgan. Whoop, I put 21. So 212. It doesn't matter. 21, 212. But you see, here's a list of all the centimorgans. And there's other tools that do that. The original that did this was the shared centimorgan tool. There are 4 clones of the shared centimorgan tool that do it, and they do their own little special sauce and, trying to get people to go to their websites. Great. This tool is not a clone of the shared centimorgan tool. The only thing it has in common with it is you enter the centimorgans, and from that point forward, everything is different, because like on their page, they show you half kinships and full kinships. On the other side, we show it to you in pathings. And we also show it to you in a tree hierarchical structure, which shows you a descendancy path for those, with halves being in blue, fulls being in yellow, and multipaths being in red. You're like, well, Larry, how do you know it's a multipath? Well, in short, okay, and this will be explained in a guide, and you can see that up at the guides at the top, but you can have DNA drop-off because you get 50% from your mother, 50% from your father, and, let's say your mother, she can give you 100% from her dad or 0 from her dad. And so you can have drop-off based on how much she passes from any particular grandparent. But your mother only contributes 50%. She can't give you additional than what she has. So therefore, even if she contributed 100% from what her father gave her, she can't give you 75% of your final DNA. So for the number to be this high, like a 212, and to be this far away from the tester here in the green, then you have to have additional paths that passed along DNA. It's a mathematical certainty. You can have DNA drop off, okay, because like I said, she may not have passed any DNA from her mother. That'd be rare for that close, but especially at a distance. And that drop off typically begins to really be noticeable at the 7th distance, which is second cousin once removed, okay? Once you get to that second cousin once removed, that's where the DNA drop-off can start being pretty wild. Otherwise, it fits really clean into the pattern once you get to that 7th distance. But you can't have additional DNA. Nobody can contribute more than 50%. And therefore, every time you traverse, you divide by 2, well, that's how much a person can give to you. A person can give you the blue, 1 path, or 2 people can get you to the next step out, or more than 2 people, 3, 4, 5 people or more, it's required to get to the next level out. So this is the only tool that caters for pedigree collapse and endogamy. By displaying it differently, instead of half and full, we've told you all along it's all about the paths, not the kinships. Sing that to the song All That Bass. So it's all about the paths, not the kinships. And so we're not showing half and full kin. So from the very beginning, yes, we type in centimorgans, just like, the OG does and like all these other tools do. But from that point forward, it's different. The others clone the shared centimorgan tool, and they just put on like, hey, do you want ancestry specific or MyHeritage specific? Because they do measure differently, or 23andMe specific. Some even list, here's the kind of test that this company uses, the kind of test this company uses, and let you filter that way. Each one has their own little special flavor, special sauce, so to speak, but they all have the inherent underlying same format. This does not. This goes completely a different direction Once you type in the centimorgans, it's a completely different direction, completely different results. And if you're not using this tool, you're missing out. All right. Now, here's all the possible kinships. Now, the first thing we do is we have this show probability map overlay, and we can click that and we can filter out half of those because how that person's related to you. And that's what this is really all about. Okay. Let's not lose sight of the fact when I type in a centimorgan, it's because I've got a DNA match and I'm trying to figure out how they're related to me. That's the questions that I'm answering. Now, this filters out half of those and says you don't need to look at the other half. Okay, if you want to know more about why and how, that's in the guides. In short, in order to get above, they got to be over 100 years, old, and to get down below, they have to almost have taken an illegal test under the age of 13. Now, the shared centimorgan tool answers a different question. It answers, of all these kinships, which ones are most likely to be a 212? And so when you see it say the probability of relationships in that box, that's not really a probability of relationships. That's relationship probabilities. And that terminology, because, I'm very specific mathematically, that terminology threw me off and derailed me for months in my research. And because of that, I ended up creating on my own the age overlay in order to filter out the noise, the NEBS, the non-essential BS. And, I filtered this out and it made it slide. Like here, the default's 50 because that was halfway between 1 and 100, right? And so it slides down when I'm putting my age at 60. It's age specific. But going back to the probability relationship. So over here, this chart is a comparative. This is relationship probabilities. The relationship being second cousin, the probability 45.6%. Second cousin once removed, the probability 20%. First cousin twice removed, 12.5%. And you can read the rest of them for yourself. When you come over here and I enter 212, see this group of 49? I've got that same kinship, half, second, great aunt, uncle at 0.4 because mine is a relationship probability. Even though it says relationship probability here, this is the probabilities of relationship. And that's not the same thing. It answers a different question. Example, the very first one, half, great, great aunt, uncle. You see right here, here's 212 is the number we entered. 200's here, 225's here. There's 9 to the left, 9 to the right. It's spot on for a 212. It is a 212 relationship. But now I want you to ask this a different question. How likely is my DNA match to be that kinship? Well, right here, a lot of people, like I did originally, assumed that this was the probability. But let's add up the number. And these numbers represent kits, people that spit in a tube or got their cheek swabbed. Okay, so we add these numbers up and it adds up to 34. Now we're going to look at the very next one right here. It says second cousin. You can see that 34 doesn't even equal this way down here at the 500. This is 1,000. These two add up to over 1,000. This one's nearly 1,000. This is 500 and a couple hundred. This is nearly 4,000, definitely over 3,000. I'm not going to add it up, and I don't know the total off the top of my head. Comparatively, okay, if this was 30 and that was 3,000, that's 100 times. So you multiply it times 100. That's comparatively, okay? That's what we've done. Now, the age overlay, though, gives me even more powerful insight to that information. Not only is it not 49%, it's not 0.4. This overlay shows me that this half second great aunt uncle is in white. And for my age and that centimorgan, that's a 0 probability for me. 0. And so I couldn't get that on any other tool until I had my tool. And just the age, overlay helped filter that out. The probability is right here. Now, for somebody at a different age, let's say they're 80. Well, it slides down. So it's definitely not it. They're 50. It's in yellow. Not very likely unless there's, a 100-year-old or something in there. 30 years old, it shows up. So for a 212, If you're 30 and you put that in, that kinship of second great aunt uncle shows up, but at that point, it's only 0.4% likely comparatively. The relationship, the probability of that relationship, okay? The relationship probability is 0.4%. It's not 49%. This is a probability of relationships because this is answering the question, the probability that this is a 212. I know that's parsing words, but it's a very important distinguishing fact on the information and how you process it. We process it differently, okay? This is not a clone. This is not one of those that says, hey, enter a centimorgan and we'll show you all the possible kinships, just like, the shared centimorgan tool, and, give you information that, the shared centimorgan or all the others that copy that tool do. No, we went down a different path from the very beginning, no pun intended, by showing you the pathings. We showed it to you in a hierarchical tree format. We show you with the age overlay, and we give you comparative histograms that show you the probability of each relationship in comparison to each other. Those things are things that no other tool does. Now, I show that. I'm not knocking it because you say, well, which one's right, 49% or 0.4%? Well, they're both right. They're both 100% right to the questions that's being asked. This is asking mathematically of all of the possible kinships here, okay, which kinships are most likely to be a 212? These are most likely, these are the next most likely, these are the next most likely, these are the next most likely. Now, what I'm doing is saying in all of the buckets here, out of all of these possible, how is that person related to me? Well, they're 45% likely to be a second cousin. They're 20% likely to be a second cousin once removed. Totally different question, totally different answer. This is not a clone of that tool. Okay, this is a different tool. I'm not saying that tool is better or worse because it's a different tool. Watto is a different tool. They're all different tools. Okay, this is a different tool. I don't want people to be thinking that this is just another one of the many, many clones of the shared centimorgan tool. It's not. The CM solver is an original. It does something totally different. The only thing that it has in common is that it enters centimorgans. And therefore, a lot of people misunderstand it to be just another clone of the shared centimorgan tool. It's not. It shows this shared matches differently, okay? We show it with pathings of single, dual, multi-path, which gives us the answer for pedigree collapse. It gives us an age overlay to filter them out. Again, for me, that kinship is not 49, it's not 0.4, it's 0. This tool shows me it's 0 because of the age overlay. That's the power of this tool. This is different. Now, because we have an age overlay, because we have the comparative histograms, not a specific kinship histogram, not answering, which one is most likely to be a 212, but comparative analysis of each one of these specific kinships and their likelihood to be how that person matches me. I can now take the CM tool from the old tool that it used to be, add in the MRCA projections. And no tool on the internet can give you this because no tool on the internet gives you the age overlay that slides with your age. No tool gives you a comparative analysis of centimorgans in relationship to each other at each one of those centimorgan nodes. This is the only tool that does those two things, and therefore it's the only one that can give you an accurate MRCA projection. That is exciting. This is groundbreaking as the clustering was on Ancestry. This is the biggest next step in DNA and genealogical research that has been made available in a tool. This tool was already at the forefront, but a lot of people were not using it. In fact, in my own Facebook group, when somebody says, yeah, I've got this match, I don't realize who they are, they're 853 centimorgans to me. And invariably, the first link I see, somebody puts in 853 and posts it. And it's like, why are you using that tool? The person wants to know, how is that person related to them? That's what this does. That's not what this does. This gives you a list of all relationships and the probability that those relationships matched that. It is not answering, how is that person related to me? It's a totally different question. It's not what the asker was asking. Okay? And so now, with the power of that age overlay and the answer to the question, how are they related to me? I can now take this and it changes based on age. You see the percentages change. I go, my centimorgans right here is 47 and 44. I change this to my age. I get something much more definitive. It's 74, 47. This is the best tool out there to answer, how is that related to me? How is that person related to me? It solves, how is CM Solver. It solves, how is that person related to me? Because that's the question. When I was looking for my biological father and I was looking through all my DNA matches that I put on that one particular cluster, I wanted to know, how was each one of those people related to me? I couldn't figure it out. With this, I can tell you with pretty much certainty, even for this one, this is a 106, a little more of a distance, 28% likely a third cousin, 27% likely a second cousin once removed, 15% here. And then this is half of that and gets down into the less than 1%. So I can tell, and it's going to be right here. Third cousin, second cousin once removed, third cousin once removed. This is the path I need to be looking in. I need to be looking right here, and I need to be looking at this intersection for the MRCA. Because once you know where to look for the MRCA, you can start building your tree down and their tree down from that point and finding the intersection. Now, if it's a DNA surprise and your tree is different and their tree is different, you can look at all of the people in that cluster with that person and look, are the other people's trees matching yours? Then they probably have a surprise coming. If their tree matches everybody else's, then you probably have a surprise coming. But see, that's the power of this tool. Using the other tool, it took me 9 months. Now, to be fair, the last month was sitting on my hands waiting on the DNA test for the person who turned out to be my niece to come in. Okay, so 8 months. But 6 of those 8 months, I was chasing down things like this, that, the second great aunt, uncle, and other things that it says relationship probability. Okay, it told me this is my relationship probability. I looked here for a long time because it's like, wow, if that's 49%, I really need to give it some thought. Okay, I really need to look and double check and triple check before I go on to the next kinship. And I went to work them in this order. Now, with that, to be fair, it was back in the older version, the version 3. The version 3 did not have that pop-up on the histograms, so there was no way to do it. You come in here, there is no pop-up. Okay, I couldn't tell the histogram to tell like you can today. Okay, on the newer version, I can tell there's only 34 in that bucket compared to nearly 4,000 in this bucket. Comparatively speaking, it's way different. Okay, 0.4 multiply it times 100, move the decimal over, that'd be 40%. This is 45. Comparatively, this is 45%. This is 0.4%. This is the most accurate tool to give you the answer to the question, how is that person related to me? It's the only tool that's asking and answering that question. It's the only tool that gives you the age overlay. And therefore, it's the only one that can give you the answer to that question based on your age and project accurately your most recent common ancestor to that DNA match. CM Solver at cmsolver.com. Now, if you want to know more about the pathing, the blue, the yellow, and the red, you want to know more about the age overlay or the comparative histogram or the MRCA percentages, up at the top, there's guides. You click on this and it's going to bring up a YouTube video from the channel that describes, here's the CM Solver displaying all kinship and paths. And the next one's going to take up from there, do the tester age overlay, and it's going to take up, it's a little 9-minute video, the probabilities of that. And it explains, each one of these take up where the other one left off. It explains kinship and paths, tester age overlay, the comparative histograms, and how that all culminates into the MRCA probabilities. Now, the coming soons, that's where we're going to talk about some of the extended powers of this tool and the way it was laid out. And the reason we laid it out differently, we didn't do halves on the left. Let's reset this. We didn't show, half kinships on the left and full kinships on the right. We took here's my ancestors, here's the descendancy paths. And what we did is we said, okay, this is the single path, this is the dual path, this is the multipath. And by doing that, we get the power of patterns that are in it, particularly with the relationships that are the cousins once removed. You see that, above and below a generation, these are the cousins once removed means a generational difference. So this row below is the one generational difference below. This is the one generational difference above. You'll notice that the two generations removed, if one of them's in the green, the other one's not. And if I, slide this for me, this one's not, now this one is. You're not going to have both of those because, it's 20 to 25 years per generation. So 2 generations below you would be 40 to 50 years. Above you would be 40 to 50 years. That adds up to 80 to 100. But then you have to add in your own. Okay, so now you're looking at 100 to 125 years between these, second cousin or the twice removed kinships. They're not going to be in that same green. Again, you want more detail on that, look in the guides on that because it's explained better in there. So we can tell what that is. But the once removed kinships, you have the same pattern above. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 down to this one. And then this is the same kinship here. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Or said a different way, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So it's the same. Now, to say that in a more understandable way of what's going to be in that guide, I'm going to go up 3 and down 2, or I'm going to go up 2 and down 3. Somebody is only going up 2. What that means is either me or them. It's going to be one of our grandparents is going to be the intersecting MRCA. And see, that's really powerful information. And we can see that because of this representation. Instead of, it's here, but you kind of have to look for that. You have to kind of go up 1, 2, down 1, 2, or go up 1, 2, and then, over 1, 2. They show it with the green and the red, but it's not as intuitive as if it's right here for the single path, dual path, and multipath. So from the very beginning, we start showing things in a very different way with the pathings, with the age overlay, and the comparative histograms, and now the MRCA percents. This is a great tool. CM Solver at cmsolver.com. Share this with your genealogical groups. Anybody that you like. If you don't like them, don't share it with them. But this is a great tool. It's not a clone like the others, or a clone of the OG, which is the shared centimorgan tool. This does not do what the shared centimorgan tool does. It does show all the possible kinships. We display it differently, okay, because we cater for the pedigree collapse. We're not answering the question, which of these kinships is most likely to be that centimorgan. We're answering the question, how is that DNA match related to me? And so, if you're wanting the other question answered, the shared centimorgan tool, that's the tool to go to. It's the OG, it's the original, go to it. And I recommend it over the derivatives that have come up. If, however, you're wanting to answer how is that DNA match related to me, the CM Solver is how to solve that centimorgan question of how they're related to you. Because it's the only one that's answering that question, because it's the only one that's asking that question. And not only is it answering that, like right here, I see this big long bar, but I'm getting to filter that. Is that bar pertaining to me? Like some of these others we showed that they don't pertain to me. This 0.4 doesn't pertain to me. This age overlay, that's a very powerful filtering feature. This gives you all the probabilities in comparison. This says only focus on these. And if I turn on the MRCA percents, it says start in this row, this descendancy path. Start here. This is 80% likely to be in here because of the numbers in here. I hope you enjoyed the video. CM Solver is the absolute only tool that answers how is that person related to me? What are the probabilities that that person is related to me at any given kinship? This is the only tool that specifies it to that level. The only one that gives you the MRCA, the only one that gives you an age overlay. This should be your go-to tool in your toolkit. You should be using this with your Watto. You should be using this with your shared centimorgan tool. You should be using this with the other tools that are out there on the internet. This works with Ancestry, works with MyHeritage, works with all the others. This definitely should be in your toolkit. And honestly, folks, it should be the first tool you pull out of your toolbox. It just is that. It should be the first tool you pull out of the toolbox. You should get your centimorgans, your DNA match list, and enter it here. And then use this to build your tree out, either using it in Watto or Family Tree Maker or Roots Magic or whatever tool you're using there to, iron it out. Okay. So you definitely, this should be your go-to tool. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's why I'm in the video. This is exciting. This is the end of the road for the former tool. We're not going to put a dime in the jar for saying the old tool's name, but the old tool is gone. It's now the CM Solver at cmsolver.com. But it has all the power that was built in before and extended features. And now we're doing, the video guides, and we're going to do a series, just like I'm going to do a series on Family Tree Maker. I'm going to be doing a series on the CM Solver because this is absolutely the number one tool you should be using if you're doing research, trying to break down a brick wall, you're trying to find your biological family. This should be the absolute number one tool you're using, because when you cluster and you find, here's my odd cluster group, you want to know how are all these people related to you. And you can take that information shown in here, develop micro trees, extend those micro trees out until you start connecting them and solve the answer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy the tool. I would say subscribe because you want to see the other videos coming out, whether it be on Family Tree Maker or that. I will announce that there's going to be another series starting really soon. That's going to be a from scratch series, and that's going to involve me putting only my name in a tree and only using my DNA match list, figuring out who my biological parents are, grandparents, and breaking down walls going back. And we're going to put the name of the tree, my name, Larry Jones, and we're going to assume that's wrong. And in fact, I was born Larry Basie, so I guess it is wrong. And I got a birth certificate with Basie, birth certificate of Jones, and biologically, according to that DNA list, my biological father was a Brown. So yes, I'm only going to start with the name, and the name is wrong. So that's going to be a great series. There's going to be one a week as we go through every step. If I somewhere along the way miss a step in there, this is going to be a really unique series, because if you see something that I did out of muscle memory and I didn't explain well enough, you'll be able to ask that question in the comments. If it's not going to be answered in the next video, I will make a midweek video to explain that. So at the end of this year, we will have the best, the absolute best go-to series from start to finish, how to break down walls and find your biological families. This is the best tool on the internet, bar none. That's going to be the best video series on the internet on that topic, bar none. And what kind of video would it be if I didn't give you a little teaser? Coming in the summer of 2023, just over a year from now, just like I promised that this tool would be different, this tool would solve things that no other tool solves, it's delivered it. The CM Solver solves the questions like no other tool does. We have a tool being developed right now as fast as I and the developers I'm paying to help me with pieces of it can do, that is going to flip the genealogical community literally on its head. We're going to look at family trees in ways we've never looked at it before. We're going to look at our DNA matches in ways we've never looked at before. And we're going to have family tree DNA trees like we've never, ever seen them visualized before. The insightful information. If you now understand how powerful this tool is in comparison to the other tools, it's got the multipathing for endogamy, the age overlay, comparative histograms, and the MRCA projections. It's 4 times better than any other tool in solving your centimorgan questions. This next tool that is supposed to come out in the summer of 2023 is tenfold of this. This will be antiquated like a rotary phone compared to the new tool. And it'll be like, the modern cell phone. I am excited about it. So the CM Solver is now in its final form. The only thing we'll probably do is some aesthetics. We'll come out with an aesthetic update in the summer of this year, and we'll come out with an aesthetic update around Christmas time. And so you can look forward to those. You're like, what aesthetically are you going to do? Well, I called out Ancestry for having the white background because working at it for prolonged periods of time, it just hurts your eyes. Well, look what background we have here. Now, to be fair, when you enter the centimorgan here, you get the answer and you move on to research on their site and other sites, whether it be Ancestry or MyHeritage or whatever. So you're not on here for prolonged periods of time, 4 or 5 hours, because it doesn't take that long to get the answer here. But when I'm working with my tree and stuff like that, I am there for long extended periods of time working on with that. So, but what kind of thing would it be if I didn't resolve that myself? So we're going to give you the ability to change the background color to be what you want and some other cool aesthetic features that'll allow you to put your own names in some of these places. Because if you have clusters and you're working with specific names, you want to kind of iron them out to this. And so we're going to give you some additional abilities with that, but that's more aesthetic and printout capabilities and things of that nature. But that'll be coming, through this year. All right. I hope you enjoyed the video. You feel free to like or not like. If you don't like, tell me why. Is it something I said, something I didn't say? Was it because I have a logo for Nike and you're protesting Nike? I don't know. Anyway, so let me know in the comments below what you think and what you'd like to see as far as the aesthetics for this. Also, let me know how you've used it. So let other people know. They need to hear the positive feedback. If you're searching for biological family, sometimes you get mired down in it. You're using all the tools and people want to know, does this really work? It really works. Okay. 2 hours to solve my mom's DNA surprise using this tool. 2 hours. Now, I was fortunate. It had a lot of information. I did the video with a lady she asked me to help her sister find her sister's biological father because they have the same mother but different fathers. Found it, and through the help of newspapers.com on Ancestry, I actually got articles on him to share more and share photos and stuff, with her. But that whole thing was a single night process using this tool. So this tool is powerful. This tool is powerful. And that's why we're going to have a whole video series devoted to the use of this tool, because you absolutely need to understand all the different facets of this to get the most out of it, just like you would Family Tree Maker or any other tool out there on the internet. Hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to talking to you soon. Make sure you bookmark this CM Solver. Make it one of your bookmarks, because this needs to be your #1 go-to tool.